With stealth mode activated, I crept down the stairs, moving closer to the great metal cube. The thumping of the mutant security bots was more intense now. The stomps of the machines closest to me reverberated through my bones, and dust fell from the ceiling, creating a mist in the dim light of the cavern. It occurs to me, since those things come from the same technology I'm using, I said, maybe they can detect me when I'm stealthed?
That is a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
What?
Don't worry. They'll have no idea you're there. They don't look like they've been configured for high-end military operations, so they won't be able to detect stealth technology of your level of sophistication, unless they've been significantly upgraded. But really, what are the odds?
All of my fears having been completely ignored by Smelly, I advanced slowly down the stairs. When I came to the bottom of the stone staircase, I looked out at the fortress, which was still at least a half-mile distant. It had been hard to gauge the distance from up high. Now, down on the ground, I could see just how massive the fortress was. How much space stretched between me and the cube, and how big those monstrous robots were. I moved forward, slowly, while 8 huge robots trudged back and forth, each footstep sending vibrations up my legs. The robots looked even stranger as I approached, with limbs of different colors and textures and sizes, fashioned out of what had been industrial tools. Wires hung loose, and circuits were exposed. There was something forlorn about them, though they had no heads that I could see. Nothing to mimic humanoid expression. I started to move away from the nearest one, which was only 100 feet away.
No, go towards it,
Smelly said. Are you crazy? Why would I do that?
Just trust me, okay?
I wanted to have faith in Smelly. It had lied to me all along, and I felt pretty sure it wasn't going to deliberately put me in peril, but I still had a hard time trusting it. I approached one of the robots, which lumbered along on legs made of what looked like a building's metal support beams. It seemed to have no idea I was there. Then Smelly emitted some kind of energy pulse. I felt it emanate from my body like a submarine sonar ping. The robot turned towards me and took 2 tentative but huge steps. At 10 feet tall, it towered over me, could crush me like a bug. What are you doing?
Do you trust me?
No, I absolutely don't trust you, I said. I wanted to turn and run, but my feet were planted in place. Then I was taking a step forward, under Smelly's control. Tell me what's going on, I demanded.
You'll see.
I don't want to see, I want to know. Smelly caused another energy pulse to come out of me, and the robot took another step towards me. It then dropped to what might have been its knees, or knee joints, or something that allowed it to lower itself. On what served as a chest, a panel opened, and under Smelly's control, I reached out and began unplugging cables and rerouting them. The robot remained perfectly still, its systems humming like a cat's purr. I watched as my hands held out a cable, moving it up and down along the circuits as though looking for its home, then plugged it into a flashing circuit board.
There,
Smelly said.
That should do it.
And it did do it. The robot's lights dimmed. It slumped forward slightly, not collapsing, but simply going still. And not just that robot, they were all slouched and still now. Silence spread across the cavern. Smelly had somehow used this one robot to shut them all down.
What did I tell you? Easy, right?
Yeah, I said, hearing the surprise in my voice. That was kind of easy. I can't believe you did that.
That's because your brain is tiny.
Or because you never tell me what you actually know. But still, that was pretty good. So what now? Do we just walk into the fortress?
I don't see why not.
I willed the stealth mode off. Hey! I shouted, though I was too far away for anyone up there to see me. It's all good. Come on down. And then someone tried to shoot me. I don't like being shot at. It's just not something I enjoy. That said, if you happen to be packing secret alien technology developed by a long-vanquished precursor race, and if that technology gives you quick reflexes, you do have a better than even chance of surviving the ordeal. I hit the dirt as a blast landed behind me, kicking up stone and dust. I then scrambled behind the toppled form of one of the robots, hoping that it would give me shelter. Another shot went over my head, but it was a clean miss, which meant the sniper had lost sight of me. That was good news. Still, I had 2 concerns. First, who was trying to shoot me? That was a big one. Second, were my friends okay? That was a pretty big one, too.
That blast was full power, Smelly said. Whatever biological nasty shot at you was not looking to stun you. It wants you dead.
Okay, that was a third problem. Do we get telescopic sight or anything with this tech?
You want a deep fryer too? Don't be an idiot. How would that even work?
How should I know what's possible? I don't understand how any of this works.
A reasonable point. I refer you back to the squid and the mandolin. But no, you don't have that power. To be honest, you're not going to have any power soon. I'm losing my ability to keep the technology stable.
Well, fix that.
It's not so easy, Zeke. Imagine you're dangling from a branch, trying to keep from falling. The longer you hang on, the harder it is to keep your grip. That's what this feels like.
You're just going to have to keep holding on, I said, because my friends are up there. I stealthed myself and headed back up the stairs. The problem with this skill tree, I realized, was that it was meant to work in conjunction with the other one, the one I didn't have anymore. That meant I didn't have augmented strength or stamina or healing. I could do a lot of cool things, and Smelly could give me those extra bits of strength or power for brief seconds. But for the most part, I was a super-powered weakling. I wanted to stop and catch my breath, but my friends were up there. Tamret was up there. And slowing down simply wasn't an option. I rushed forward, knowing that the sound of my footsteps and gasping breath were hidden, but I still felt like a clumsy oaf. Then I stopped. Back where I'd left my friends, 15 peace officers now stood, all of them with Junip's armbands. They had their guns trained on Alice, me son, Charles, Tamret, and Volonic, who were all sitting on their hands, their backs to the wall. Oh, and hey, there was Ardov. Big surprise there. Of course he wouldn't miss out on the fun. He wasn't born a Confederation citizen, so, like us, he could simply stroll into the Forbidden Zone. About half the beings backing him were Vauclear like Urch. That made sense too, if only in the fact that their species had been brought to the Confederation less than 2 decades ago, and Urch had said some of them had been sucked into the movement for peace. There were a few other species I didn't know, but I figured they had to have been in the same group of initiates. Ardov and his cronies being there didn't surprise me. It disturbed me, but it didn't surprise me. No, what surprised me was the fact that Colonel Rage wasn't being made to sit on his hands and behave himself. He was standing talking to Ardov.
Zeke, it is getting incredibly difficult to keep this technology functional. I suggest you hide before we suffer a complete system shutdown.
I looked around. There was an outcropping of rocks about 10 feet away that kept me out of the line of sight of Ardov and his henchmen. I slipped behind that, and I felt Smelly turn off the stealth without me telling him to. I almost felt its sigh of relief. How long until we can use it again? I whispered, my voice barely audible even to me.
Hard to say. At least 10 minutes.
I'm telling you, the colonel was saying. He's got the tech. He can make himself invisible. I don't believe it, Ardov said. Why hasn't he used it before? He didn't know that he had it. There's some alien machine in his brain. It's been manipulating him, holding things back, not letting him know about the things he can do.
Well, when you put it that way, it almost makes me sound like I'm not very nice.
You think? I whispered.
I can't believe this, Smelly. The mole wasn't Volonic. It was Colonel Rage. Why is he betraying us? He's not, as far as he's concerned. Zeke, you have to understand the mind of a military meatbag. He's always been looking for an advantage. I think he would have double-crossed Junip if he thought he could have escaped with you kids and some useful tech, but he was always willing to trade information for the same goal. All he cares about is protecting your world, and maybe you and your pointless friends as well, but he doesn't care who runs the Confederation. Junip or Glee-Wixix? The Colonel won't care as long as Earth gets a good deal.
Maybe that was so. I could see it from his perspective. But I didn't like the idea of him making deals with Junip. Not only didn't I trust any deal Junip made, but he had done things that made him unforgivable. I don't care how good a deal he offered, it couldn't be trusted, and even if it could be trusted, it was still tainted. Whatever he's got, he doesn't know how to use it, Ardov was saying. I'm not worried about him. He was able to run rings around the highly trained personnel of the United States military. Your primitive soldiers are one thing. I'm another. The colonel grunted. I think you're underestimating him. It doesn't matter, Ardov said. As long as we've got his girlfriend and these other morons as my hostages, he can't touch me. If he tries anything, we'll pick them off. We'll start with Volonic since no one likes him, but it'll let Zeke know I mean business."
"That wasn't the deal," the colonel said. "I was promised no one gets hurt."
"If you have ever seen The Empire Strikes Back,"
Charles volunteered,
"you would know that making deals with the bad guys never ends well."
You remember the Voyager episode, Scorpion?
Alice asked.
Same deal.
"A most satisfying two-parter,"
Charles agreed.
"though I find the show to be flawed."
The later seasons were pretty good.
Alice said. "Shut up!" Ardov shouted, then turned to the colonel. "I don't care about you or them. I don't care about anything except retrieving that technology for Director Junip." The colonel folded his arms. "I thought you were a good soldier, son. Junip told you not to hurt any of those kids." Ardov shrugged. "He did. He absolutely told me to avoid hurting these kids if I could. He likes to keep his options open, but if I come back with the tech and a bunch of dead primitives, I have a feeling he'll forgive me." Colonel Rage opened his mouth to say something, but he closed it again. There was nothing he could say, and nothing he could do. His best bet, he had to know, was to play it cool and hope that things turned out okay for us. If not, he was probably hoping that they would turn out okay for Earth's relations with Junip. Ardov was now looking down at the fortress. "The Guardians are neutralized, and Zeke knows we're here. He's either invisible and hiding nearby, or he's inside the fortress. My guess is he's already in there looking for the tech, or some kind of weapon. Who knows what kind of former artifacts are in there?" The colonel's eyes narrowed like he was thinking something. He was surely aware I wouldn't leave my friends behind, but he didn't want to tell a selfish jerk like Ardov what wouldn't occur to him naturally. "Smelly, what are my options here?" I whispered.
"I can give you a short burst of power in a few minutes. I think you should use it to get into the fortress and see what's there."
So, basically, I should do exactly what Ardov thinks I'm already doing.
"He may suspect that you are doing it, but what options will he have? The longer you're away from him, the more time I'll have to recover and use the tech. Besides, he will have no reason to hurt the hostages if you are not around to see him do it."
Maybe Smelly was right, but I didn't like the idea of leaving everyone alone with Ardov. As it turned out, Ardov didn't like leaving things to chance either. If he has this technology, I don't want him running around with it. I need to have him under control before we move into the fortress. Get Volonic up. So Smelly clearly had gotten one wrong. A couple of henchmen grabbed Volonic and pulled him to his feet. Ardov pointed a PPB pistol to his head. "Zeke," Ardov shouted, "if you don't show yourself in 60 seconds, I'm gonna kill Volonic. I know you don't care about him, but it's just to prove I'm serious before we move on to your friends."
"Upside, at least you get rid of your rival,"
Smelly said. "I'm not gonna let him kill Volonic," I whispered. "Just because I find the guy irritating and he plans on marrying the girl I like doesn't mean I want him dead."
"Wow, you are tender-hearted, aren't you? What do you plan to do then? I can't bring the tech online for another 8 minutes."
I sighed. "I guess I'll have to buy you some time." Which is why I stood up from behind the rock outcropping, my hands in the air. "I know I'm going to regret saying this," I told Ardov, "but please don't kill Volonic."